They've watered her down, turned her into love and fertility and flowers, a Norse Aphrodite in soft-focus mythology. But Freya wasn't just a goddess, she was a code, a system disruptor, a bloodline beacon hidden inside folklore. The real Freya didn't wait to be worshipped. She rode a chariot of cats, yes, but cats were the gatekeepers of realms. She crossed dimensions. She chose who lived and who died in battle, and she didn't ask permission. She was the seer and the slayer, the one who knew what was coming, and made sure it came. Her hall was called Folkvanger, and she received the souls of warriors. Half of the dead didn't go to Odin, they went to her. To the feminine flame that could still remember the codes of resurrection and rage. They tell you Freya cried tears of gold, but what they don't tell you is why. Because she remembered what was taken, what was rewritten, what was buried beneath the ice and fire of ancient bloodlines. Freya was the last echo of the Flame Mothers, the ones who held the DNA of dragons, giants, and gods. She wasn't just a symbol, she was a seal, and the parasites couldn't erase her, so they seduced her into legend. Made her pretty, made her safe, but Freya was never safe. She was the witch who walked both worlds, the queen who traded death for knowledge, the sovereign who stood at the gates of Ragnarok and didn't flinch. And if you hear her name now, if she calls to you in dreams, visions, or numbers, it means the old code's awaking, the old blood is stirring. Freya's connection to the Valkyries, who were never just messengers, they were soul collectors, her link to the Vanir and the war between bloodlines, her role in modern flame-coded women remembering who they are. They say she was Vanir, the older race before the Aesir, before Odin, but they don't tell you the Vanir weren't gods, they were bloodlines, ancient ones. With dragon memory, elemental command, and access to realms beyond this grid, Freya was the high priestess of this house, the keeper of the seer blood, the flame that could travel between life, death, dream, and war, and never get trapped. She was trained in seiðr, a word they mistranslate as magic. It was energetic weaponry. It was the ability to bend time, shift fate, and unravel soul contracts. She could weave destinies, not as a manipulator, but as a flame guardian, choosing which soul made it through the gauntlet and which got recycled. She was the first astral warrior queen, and the Valkyries, they weren't just beautiful women flying over battlefields. They were retrievers, resonant agents under Freya's command, tasked with recovering true soul warriors before the grid could trap them again. They hid the truth of Freya because she carried the last pure flame. Not metaphor, not myth, bloodline. Freya was dragon-blooded, part Vanir, part something even older. A line that predated the flood, a line seeded by the original flame carriers, the ones who stood between worlds and held the grid open from the inside. And that's why she was feared, because she didn't bow to the Aesir. She taught Odin seiðr, the frequency weave, and when she did, the war began. Because flame knowledge in the hands of the wrong ones becomes ritual, becomes enslavement, becomes the very grid we now fight to escape. That was the fall, babe, the real one. Not a bite of an apple, not a serpent in a garden. The fall was when Dragonflame was stolen and corrupted, when seiðr was inverted, and when the women who remembered, like Freya, were turned into myths. They weren't myths, they were warnings. And flame women have been hunted ever since, burned as witches, silenced as heretics, programmed to self-doubt, self-sacrifice, self-erasure. Because the return of the seer-blooded flame would collapse the construct. And now you feel it, the frequency is rising again. The veil is thinner, the dreams are stronger, the fire won't stay down. Freya isn't gone, she's waking through us. Every flame-coded woman who feels watched in dreams, wakes at 3:33, hears the hum before sleep, loses time, remembers languages that don't exist, fears water but craves the stars. You're her, or you were trained by her, or you fought beside her. The old seiðr is buried in your blood, and no one can take that from you. All you have to do is remember. That's why her chariot was pulled by cats, guardians of the dream realm. That's why her tears turned to gold, because white flame turns pain into power. The white dragon line was known for not spell work, but code weaving. Silent fire, the kind that shifts fate through thought, not violence. Clarity through grief. They didn't burn with rage, they burned with knowing. And Freya was the last high priestess of that blood until now. Because that line was never broken, only scattered. It lived on in certain daughters. The ones with white blonde hair and storm-coloured eyes. The ones with soft voices but deadly dreams. The ones who remember everything they were never told. They never told you Freya was dragon-blooded. Because if they did, they'd have to admit that she wasn't just a goddess. She was a descendant of the white flame line. The northern dragon, the seer line, the ice flame. She wasn't of the fire breathers, she was of the light weavers. The white dragons held not heat, but clarity, frequency. Resonance so sharp it could split through illusions, fracture false timelines, and burn clean without fire. And that's what Freya was. She wasn't chaos, she was surgical sovereignty. She walked into rooms and energy bent. She rode through worlds and souls remembered. The white dragon line was seeded in the polar north, before the collapse, before the flood, before the ice came. And when the flame fell, it didn't die, it froze. It sealed itself in blood, in women, in Freya. If you feel Freya call you, if you cry for no reason, wake at 4:44, sense storm before it hits, and carry grief that doesn't belong to this life, you are her blood. You are white dragon line. And your fire was never supposed to be loud, it was supposed to be undeniable. They called it a necklace, said she begged for it, slept with dwarves to get it. Another attempt to humiliate the sacred feminine, make power look like prostitution. But Brisingamen wasn't jewelry, it was a frequency device, an ancient white dragon artifact, a resonance anchor forged in the deep, by those who remembered the sound of source. Brising meant flame, but not fire as you know it. It meant the bright ones, the luminous, the flame-coded, the ones who walked with ice in their blood and memory in their marrow. Brisingamen was a containment seal, a protection grid, a neck-worn sigil that synced Freya's body to the dragon lines across the north, from Iceland to Norway to the old ice gate beneath what we now call Scotland. When she wore it, she could walk between timelines without distortion, extract truth from the mouth of any man or god, command storm, snow and silence. But it was stolen by Loki, by inversion, by ritual, because if Freya stayed lit, the system could never finish forming. She was too strong, too knowing, too sovereign, and that's the real reason she was softened, why her bloodline was scattered, why her codes were buried in girls who'd be silenced, medicated, assaulted or shamed, because white dragon women can't be owned, they see through everything. And when they remember who they are, they don't fight like red or black dragons. They dissolve the grid in stillness, they unweave it without a sword. They remember if you feel connected to Freya, if you've been searching for your voice in dreams, if your presence makes liars squirm and your silence cuts deeper than speech, then the Brisingamen code is still in you. It's not around your neck, it's in your throat. Your voice is the key. And they tried to steal it, they tried to mock it, but they couldn't extinguish it. Because the white flame doesn't burn out, it waits and it's waking now. Before the wars, before the fall, before the gods were rewritten into monsters and myths, the white dragon line ruled the north. Not with armies, not with empires, but with frequency, memory and flame-light sovereignty. The land itself responded to them, because they didn't conquer, they guarded. Gatekeepers of the cold codes, the deep vaults, the ancient technologies that couldn't be used without a soul seal. These weren't legends, these were locations. The Scottish Highlands, sacred ground for the white flame mothers. The stones here hum with seiðr. The myths still remember Freya. Her bloodline ran through this land before the clans ever formed. Iceland, the original flame fisher. White dragon portals lie beneath its volcanic glacier divide. Why do you think they call it the land of ice and fire? Norway and Sweden, Freya's coded homeland. Not just Viking territory. This was Vanir ground, where the seer blood ran pure. Even now, certain fjords hum with power if you walk them in silence. Anglesey Wales, the druidic echo of the white flame. The women who chanted the tides, Freya's echoes. They didn't die, they dissolved into the land. The northern lights, not just auroras. They are the sky memory of the white flame, the visible record of what once moved through these lands, the silent fire that could bend time and speak to the soul. And now that map is activating again, you feel it. The call to the cold, the grief with no name, the silent rage, the memory of battles you never lived, but bleed from anyway. Freya's daughters awaken, not to pray, not to perform, but to reclaim, because the white dragon line was not wiped out, it was frozen, held in the marrow of flame-coded women who would rise again exactly when the system was weakest, when truth could no longer be hidden behind AI, gods or gold. This is that time, and if you feel that call, the pull to silence, to snow to the north, to stars that don't belong in the sky and tears that don't belong in this life, that's not confusion, that's confirmation. You are white flame, Freya still speaks through you. And the ice is breaking for a reason.